right, and we are back with another episode, and joining me today, Niki Kennedy. How's it going?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. You had an early morning. You were
I
saying
did indeed. Yeah.
you're
Singing
up.
before 7 a.m. is always
Yeah,
fun.
that's too early for me, that's for sure. Okay, for starters, for those who don't know, tell us a little bit about yourself and where you come from.
So I am a Kiwi. I'm born and bred New Zealand, and I moved to Canada when I was 16 for college, and I've been living here ever since. And yeah, I make music basically, mostly pop, but I'm super influenced by other genres and trying to like stretch the boundaries of what that looks like. So yeah.
Awesome. And okay, so take it back with for me for a second. How did music start in your life? How is it something you grew up on? Is it something that you just fell in love with one day and continued?
Yeah, basically all of the above. It's always been such a big part of my life, and it was always around. My both my parents love music, and it was always playing. We were always dancing. Like as a kid, I was always like completely surrounded by it. And then when I started in school, I just took every opportunity, choirs, like keyboard class, like like everything, anything I could get my hands on, I was involved in. It's consumed my life ever since. So it's a
Okay.
whole life thing.
All right. All right. And you said you did a little bit of pop music. For someone who's never heard your music before, how else would you describe your sound to them?
I would describe my sound as like soft pop. So I would put it in the sort of adult contemporary easy listening meets like modern production. Um, so I like to think that hopefully it can speak to a wide range of listeners, and um, definitely a little bit more on the chill side, even for my upbeat tracks.
For sure. Okay. Perfect. All right. You have what artists are who what are some artists that inspire you mostly in this industry?
Right now, I have been going through this like huge phase of just being completely obsessed by like female singer-songwriters.
Okay.
So specifically people like Sarah Bareilles and her, and people like Lynn and Stella and Sasha Sloan, and sort of that crossing over to that like sad girl sort of like pop world. Um, but yeah, I've been really enjoying sort of what's coming out of especially female musicians lately, and the stories that are coming to light, Julia Michaels, like those kinds of people. Um, I think it's really, really, really cool. I grew up heavily influenced by Motown and disco and traditional R&B and things like that. So that's kind of what I say. Like I always love to sort of like see how far you can push the boundaries of influencing pop music.
For sure. And do you have specific influences? Like, do you have one specifically for songwriting and one for performing?
I would think for me, like the influences for singing and performing always kind of came from those bigger, I think classically the divas, like your Celine's, your Whitney's, your Aretha, like all of that, like, I have to credit them with like even like for me to even start singing to begin with, it was all of that, that like complete performance energy. But yeah, I think in recent years it's mostly like trying to get deeper into it and underneath it all. And like lately I've been obsessed with like Janet Jackson's like Rhythm Nation album, like going back and looking at how you can talk about deeper topics but still make it hooky and relatable and accessible, but still really have that punch and that meaning behind it. And I'm kind of one of those people that listens to everything and anything. And even with Fall Back Into You, you can listen to it and say, oh, this is like a easy listening pop song. But then to know that some serious thought went into layering inspired by Nine Inch Nails, like in soundscaping in that sort of way. Like I like truly listen to most kinds of music and love it obsessively.
Perfect. All right. Let's chat about your newest single, Fall Back to You. Tell us about this single and how it all came together.
Yeah, so Fall Back Into You, I actually wrote back in January. I signed up for Ryan Tedder's monthly class
Okay.
because I was like most artists, I wrote a lot in the last year, trying to, process and figure everything out through music instead of, poor brain. Um, so I signed up for this class with a friend of mine, thinking, it was a good way to maybe try and get me out of my comfort zone and like sort of like just like you get stuck in a rut with anything in life sometimes, and you keep doing the same thing the same way. And I was like, you know what? If there's any opportunity, it's learning from the best and watching the best like create music. So what was interesting about it is this was the first song I wrote in that class, and it was a completely different approach to how I have ever written music. Um, and because of the way it was structured, didn't really have a lot of time to second guess creative decisions or criticize myself or like go into perfectionism realm, because it was just moving so quickly and you had to deliver. And I think as a result, it just kind of wrote itself, and it was based entirely out of a feeling and a vibe. That was literally the assignment. The first assignment was create a vibe. um, and I think that's like a super cool thing, because it is easy to get trapped in our head sometimes. And ultimately, I think, especially with melody, like it's the emotion and um, the other side of it, the heart side of the head that we get drawn into. So it was cool to approach it from that point of view, and Fall Back Into You is what came out of it. It was a very, very quick write. And it really didn't change outside of the production, obviously, from the time I wrote it.
Okay, very cool. And it's available on all platforms.
All streaming platforms, yeah.
Love it, love it. Where do you get most of your inspiration from when writing?
I try and write down anything that comes to mind during the day. Like if I have a thought or I hear something that inspires a thought, I try and like, I always open up my notes app and like write it down like immediately, because I can't be trusted to remember anything. Um, and I think like I've been trying to be more open with that sort of influence from like the world and the day-to-day life. And especially right now, I don't think there's any shortage of things to talk about. So I've been a little bit more active in actually like capturing those moments and those thoughts when they happen. And same thing with like if I have a melody or a hook idea or something, I'll try and voice memo it right away, so that when I do sit down and when you actually go to work and you're like, oh, like where do I start? I sort of have this bank and these tools to pull from to kickstart whatever I'm feeling at that time.
Perfect. All right. Do we have plans for a music video for your single lyric video?
I have some visuals and I haven't quite decided exactly what to do with them right now. They're sort of in the teaser world. Um, I would love to do more with video, especially as time goes on. I think it's kind of one of those things for indie artists. Sometimes we have to pick and choose which creative direction to go in, because can't do it all, even though I really, really want to. But I think what's kind of neat about the world we live in now, though, is like we can do so much with our phones, and for platforms like TikTok and Instagram, like even like recording an acoustic version of something on your iPhone is something that people can really connect to. And I think that's kind of cool. We don't always have to have those high budget official videos to go along with it.
Okay, perfect. All right. What would you say has been the best advice you've been given in your career up to this point? That's so much.
uh, that's a tough one. I think one of the biggest things that I keep hearing, especially in the last year or two, and I keep coming back to, and maybe it was always said and I just never heard it before, it is that like that whole concept of like you are enough and like you are like just do you.
Right.
I think there's a challenge, especially specifically in pop music, where we always think that we have to be like something else or chase a trend, or it has to have a certain sound, or it has to go in a certain direction. And I think ultimately, the more we trust that, we don't need to be anybody else because we're the only person that is us, and we have something to say and something to bring to the table, and trusting that voice, and ultimately just making music that you want to make. Like, that's totally shifted um my own music, to be honest, like the whole music process in itself, but also my own like feeling of self-worth and place of belonging and identity in the industry as well, which I definitely struggled with for a really, really long time.
Right. Okay. For sure. Okay. Do we have any shows lined up people can look forward to?
Yeah, so live shows here in BC are coming back slowly, and I've had a few taking it slow. It's a weird thing to come back after such a long period of time. Standing is like this whole new thing. But I actually perform virtually, usually around 4 nights a week. So I do these concerts online. I'm on a platform called Volume, which is amazing. And it's super casual and chill. And I play for a couple of hours and take requests, and there's a chat, and it's like this beautiful like community of people that just love music and connect over that love, which is super, super awesome. And I'm not restricted to a location, of course, because anybody can tune in. So it's been great for reaching new audiences.
Cool. Very cool. Okay. Okay, you got the new single. What's next for you?
So I am fortunate enough to be one of the participants in SOCAM Foundation's TD incubator for creative entrepreneurship. It's like the longest possible, like tongue twister. Which basically there's I think 25 of us creators across Canada that deemed high potential, and we have access to education and mentorship and a little bit of funding. So coming up soon, I'm going to be paired with an industry mentor, which I'm super, super excited about. And I'm just so looking forward to learning and growing and figuring out that next step. I am finishing up the next single right now, which is very much inspired by Janet Jackson's Rhythm Nation album, and it's a little bit more upbeat than Fall Back Into You. And I am in the early stages of working on a full length work that I'm hoping I can share with the world, probably by the end of next year. So early stages of writing and developing that right now, but yeah, lots on the go.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. All right. Last thing, for those who don't know, where can they find you on social media?
So at Niki Kennedy CA, and that's Niki, just to make things complicated. But yeah, on all platforms, I have the same handle, and then on all streaming platforms, it's Niki Kennedy.
Perfect. Easy enough. All right, guys. Grab her newest single, Fall Back to You. And Niki, thank you so much for taking the time today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I know it's been an early morning, so hopefully you can catch up on some sleep or something.
Absolutely.
All right. Yeah, keep in touch and we'll talk soon.
Absolutely. Take care.
All right. Take care.